can hear you.
So people are asking which blockchain, should it be like Ethereum, like MetaMask address?
Oh, so the address is the same no matter the network, but to see them, they will need to be on XDAI. We will have to post some instructions on how to get to XDAI. As long as they can give their address, like Ethereum address is fine. As long as they give that one, we will post instructions on how to add XDAI to it.
Okay. So Jay, if you heard us that any address should be fine. Okay.
What is BC of MetaMask integration?
Because of MetaMask integration, I don't know what's happening there.
So yes, so it's Dcash is on XDAI.
Excuse me, if you're joining us, someone is joining us from Zoom. No. Everything here is off. Thank you very much. Yes. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the previous event, and it's very nice to see you back again. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to Violeta, who is joining us, who is also affiliated with the Blockchain Developers United, one of the leading organizations in blockchain developers education, and they have chapters all over the world. And in particular, Violeta is here from the Toronto chapter, which is very active in providing the education for blockchain programming, creation of different ideas, projects, and they have a very big community on Discord. So I have already shared some links in the chat, which will get you to the BDU Discord community. And also we will be, in the end of this meeting, Violeta will distribute some dev cash. So basically some tokens that we can use for interaction with different blockchains. This will be like XDAI. So if you would like to get some dev cash, which is in this event, especially for us, is given for free, you can go to the Discord channel that I gave the link in the Zoom chat, or also which is on the slide, which I'm presenting right now. And just post your address. MetaMask address would be fine. And in the last meeting, we already set up a MetaMask wallet, so you should be able to do that easily. And without further ado, I will start the presentation, and I will give the word to Violeta now.
So hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. And today we are going to talk about how NFTs create value. So I'm Violeta, and I work as IT director in the Faculty of Science at York University in Toronto. And I'm also active member of the Blockchain Developers United. I learned quite a bit of programming, attending the 3 courses that Blockchain Developers United organized last fall. And I'll introduce here Mariia. Or Mariia, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think that we met already. Hi, I'm a VP and also VP of content at the Gator Blockchain Club. And so today we're going to talk about the NFTs. We'll continue our discussion about the NFTs. And first of all, we have this question to all of you. How do you think NFTs create value?
Okay. I said what they are able to do. Our last speaker just talked about how Algorand is using something in Argentina with NFTs, where they can record the lifetime of like a cow and like its birth, its death, like all the stuff that like it goes through, which I found interesting, like an interesting use of it to NFTs. I probably wouldn't have said earlier.
Wonderful example. Any other opinions? Quick thoughts?
I guess like in the art industry specifically, like there's a lot of middlemen, and NFTs reduce all those middlemen. It's just peer to peer, and yeah, that's like that's one thing, but like yeah.
Okay, just each NFT is different. So like the CryptoPunks, what gives it value is it was the first one. The Bored Apes is the community, all the parties that you get invited to. But another thing that NFTs like I'm very interested in is like the record deals, like how they sign deals and they don't even own their music. Like this gives them the right to own their music and it's on the blockchain.
Okay, so we've talked about a couple of examples here, all great suggestions. And Violeta and I would like also to cover some other examples and go over like what else can be represented as an NFT that carries real value. Violeta?
So thank you, Maria. The NFTs became popular because they represent ownership of the digital assets. And you can see, because of that ownership, you can see a variety of examples that we picked up today. I'll start with the fourth pillar. So this is on June 8th, the University of California, Berkeley auctioned off an NFT based on documents relating to the work of Nobel Prize winner cancer researcher James Allison. And they were able to raise more than $50,000 US. So this is an example of fundraising NFT. The link here is pointing to the actual scanning of the work as well as the notes of the researcher. Can you move to the next one? This one is another university example. So I came across this pretty much randomly yesterday. So MIT minted a collection of MIT domes, and they are giving one of these NFTs at a conference dedicated to blockchain. I think it's starting tomorrow, if I'm not confused. So there, I mean, someone will be receiving it randomly, and it's like brand new minted collection. As they say, it's a unique collection of MIT domes reflecting the rich lore and history of MIT. So, I mean, what's the value here? They would like to put an incentive for the conference attendees and perhaps preserve the lore and history of MIT. The next one, please. All right, so this is a very popular one because it's an example of play to earn game. So Decentraland, I picked up Decentraland because it was on top of the play to earn games with profits. That's why I picked up this one. But there are quite a few, and you might have heard of Axie Infinity as well. What is interesting about play to earn games is first, the players can contribute to the decisions taken in the game. So in some sense, the game is owned by them. Also, the players split the profit of the game. I mean, there are certain rules and different games will do it in a different way, but you can hear that people playing play to earn game may actually win, may actually get some money by playing. The next one, please. This is a project that we developed. So DevPunks is a project that we developed during our first NFT course at Blockchain Developers United. So the course participants got together and worked on a team project, and we generated many unique DevPunks. Of course, we minted only the first 12, although there are possibilities to mint more, and even you can get one. It's a collective effort. For me, it has sentimental value too, because I was one of the participants. and they're meant to be collectibles similar to CryptoPunks. So the CryptoPunks was one of the original NFT, like one of the historical NFT projects where 10,000 CryptoPunks were minted, and then they ended up selling them for thousands of dollars. Okay, next one, please.
Yeah, actually, Violeta, would you like to tell us more about your community and the upcoming courses and the opportunities, how participants can join? I'll go to the...
Right, so the Blockchain Developers United is a developer community with the goal to train blockchain developers. You don't have to be a developer to join, and in the developers, in the blockchain community, there are needs for non-developer skills as well. We are running courses that are peer-to-peer and group learning courses. And another very interesting initiative is learn and earn. So you can take small modules and earn money for them. My mistake, earn XDAI for taking the module and being tested. If you leave your address for the DevCache today, this is the Discord server for it. And you can definitely ask in that server if you have any questions about what's going on. Third initiative is the bounty platform. So you can post bounties on the platform using DevCache, and someone from the community may be able to help you. I think these are the major initiatives right now. There are a lot of other projects going on in the community, and you definitely can contribute and start your own project. Thank you, Mariia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Violeta. I just want to be mindful of time because we have the upcoming speaker. Okay, wonderful. So in those examples that we discussed, like Violeta presented to us, we could see clearly like the mechanisms, how NFTs are being used to create communities in some cases, as with the MIT as a reward and like encouraging participants to participate in the conference, or also how many of you have heard of the Bored Ape Yacht Club? Does someone own those? Yeah, we wish, right? But anyhow, just wanted to point at that this is also like a limited NFT collection. We all know about it. High prices, a lot of attraction to NFT sphere, but besides just presenting a funny and inventive picture, actually the idea is to build a community, sort of the virtual club membership, kind of like a prototype maybe of a metaverse, or it's not like a finished concept yet. I've been brushing through their website, but as much clarity as I could get is that you can collect the NFT and capture your collection of these very nice pictures. You can, of course, resell it and gain some profit. Maybe you can use it as an avatar. But most importantly, the kind of like the extra layer of this idea is that it is your path to this limited community. So basically anyone who owns this Bored Ape NFT can access certain like virtual environment, certain rooms that are closed for non-NFT holders, and post their art on the walls in that room. So broadly like that. Couple of other ideas. Violeta, do you want to go over this project?
So this is a project that was done together with an artist, and the way the collection is built is it's a therapy through art. As losing the use of my hand motivated me to use art to regain it. So what is the impact this collection creates? You can donate a selfie with the word that best describes you. Use the artist within yourself and cover part of the image. Then leave the rest of the imagination of the to the viewer. Only 21 NFTs can be created. And by the way, this collection is still accepting donations. So if you are interested, feel free to reach to us and donate your portrait. It's a collection that was done during the NFT course as well.
So a couple of other examples, the Nemus NFT, and basically with this project, the creator is who's also an artist. They're trying to capture the variety of the species which live in Amazon and present them in the form of NFTs. So it's highly linked to our physical world, this digital collection, and the participants can, of course, buy NFTs for the purpose of collection. They can mint new species, similar to CryptoKitties, like breed new types. They can also become guardians once they collect certain collections and get some rewards for being a guardians of endangered species. So as we can see, there are various mechanisms that people embed, the creators embed in these unique NFT collections to create some meaningful value for their holders beyond just representing their faces in the forms of NFTs and selling. However, as you might have known, I recently read this article that 22-year-old student from Indonesia has created a selfie each day of the year and collected over $10 million selling those NFTs to people. And eventually the price of one of his selfie is like very low. It's like 0.001 ETH. However, by doing it consistently, he created some sort of community around his personality and also made some profit. So anyhow, based on all these ideas, our main question here is, what would be your NFT idea and what value would you like to code in that NFT? So I think we'll leave on this question for now. In the upcoming meetings, please join us to share your ideas and to further develop your NFTs. We will be doing some hands-on stuff. And as of now, I'm giving the word to our next speaker.
Hello. Do we need to say goodbye?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Violeta, for joining us today. And feel free to stay for the second part of this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Do I need to stop sharing this? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, hello everyone. Actually, Matt, if you want to unmute yourself and turn your camera on, you can. And I'll pin you up there so I can all see you. Oh, let me unpin her. There it goes. Okay. It's loading. Okay, so, oh, almost. What? Can you help me, Haley? Thank you. Pin them on you. Yes, let's go. Okay, Haley is going to save us. Okay, so hello. Oh. Okay.
Hey.
Hello. Are you ready if we get started, or do you need a couple more minutes, or?
No, I was born ready. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's good to see you. We have a little crowd here that's excited to hear from you today. Would you like to introduce yourself? I think you do a little bit better job than I would.
Yeah, let me, so should I share my screen here? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. So, all right, cool.
Awesome,
Yeah,
we can see it.
Yeah, you tell me, so you can see everything? Everything's good?
Yes.
All right, cool.
That's awesome.
And you tell me when I'm ready to punch out here.
Yeah, we're ready for you when you are. Do you want to turn your camera on? If you don't have to, but.
Yeah, I'm gonna save some bandwidth here just on the.
Okay, smart.
Towards the end, but you don't want to see my mug anyway. You had my picture up there. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Lawrence, and thanks for inviting me. And yeah, it's been a squeeze of a day and a week because my company's dealing with a lot of security issues just because of the nature of the world right now. I mean, with Slack go down all over the place yesterday, just as Ukraine was quote unquote being invaded. So a lot of interesting things happening from a geopolitical perspective that really plays into a lot of what we talk about from a global standpoint when we think about blockchain and decentralization and sort of leaving behind the old way, the Web 2 way of doing things. So, I just want to keep that on people's mind. As we live in interesting times, and a lot of this is just changing so quickly that even the stuff I'm going to show you here, I've been in this business for a long time, so I'm the old guard, and I'll say that we used to measure what we would do from a sprint perspective with software in days, or in months and years. Now we're measuring things in days and weeks. And that's very disconcerting because it's difficult for businesses sometimes to block and tackle around how to produce products. But I think if you've been in the industry long enough, you start to see some of the cycles and patterns. And with the rise of blockchain and really what we're seeing with NFTs now, it's disrupting all of that. It's really changing all that. So I'll do a quick introduction and then kind of lean into things. And what I'll say too is, our company's been doing, everybody in my company has an avatar that looks similar to this in our system, all of our systems. That's what I actually look like. We've been world building for a long time. So, I mean, this whole discussion around NFTs and what we're doing in the metaverse is like apropos for us. It's a second language. So it's kind of exciting to be on that side of it. But we also have looked for functional ways of using graphics and art as kind of a translator, right? A way to make concepts that are very challenging easier for our users to understand. So again, my name is Matt. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at a software company called Solodev. We're headquartered in downtown Orlando. We have a small office in St. Pete, and we have a satellite office in Warsaw, Poland. I spent most of my career working in and around Silicon Valley. I've worked at the divisional level with IBM on their GTS team. I've worked with Microsoft way back on the Office 365 launch. And I've been with the company I'm with right now for about 5 years. I really love startups and growth companies, and I love kind of understanding what the stories are with companies. And that's why I was attracted to where I'm at right now, because we're principally a CMS product. So we dealt in transactions with content. And we carved a niche around that by being cloud first. We built our platform from the ground up cloud. And that's important because when we think about what centralization we do need in a decentralized world, it's infrastructure, whether that's physical infrastructure for bridges and roads and systems and electric grids, or digital infrastructure. We need those central controls in order to be able to scale and meet the needs of users. And we've put a lot of engineering practices into building products over the years. So we've gotten better at kind of seeing where the patterns are around how we build those products for lots of scaled users. So when we think of multi-user systems like games, being able to have that scalability is really key. I've had the opportunity to work really closely with AWS's AI ML team. So I spent a lot of time as a cloud practitioner working on the more advanced side of the services, and then working in industries that have to deal with a lot of governance, like healthcare. And all of this is important. I'm spending a little more time on the cloud piece because that's actually an essential part of all of this. Having the scalability, kind of looking at the next wave of digital transformation, is a lot of what's going to unlock what we can potentially build on these blockchains and what that means for organizations and users. So enough about me. I'm going to start really quickly with South Park, because who doesn't like South Park? It's just completely ridiculous, and this is going to be inappropriate for some people, so I apologize in advance, but it kind of crystallizes everything for me, because this is how quickly we've moved into all of this. It has become not just a fad, but it's become a cliche, right? And in this particular, you can find this on YouTube, in this particular snippet, they're at a Denny's, Applebee's, Max. And there's a pitch man who's talking about how they're going to sell unique digital goods on the blockchain. and there's all this social community activity around it. And all these people are talking about it. And, he's talking to a room of people that have no idea what he's talking about. And there's a statistic out there right now that says 50% of people don't understand what cryptocurrency is. And yet 75% of people are willing to invest in it. And that's what we call irrational exuberance. And this confusion that these people are seeing foments when they're saying, what do we do? Sell these characters? Is this the whole business model? And the pitch man says, yeah, we're going to do something with them with NFTs, and that's what we're going to do. And this is the sort of the ultimate point, is that we're at a stage today where we're seeing technology transition, just as we did in 1996 when there were about 70 million AOL accounts, and all the talking heads in media were saying, well, what's an email address? Where does it go? It's just a fad, right? And if you fast forward another decade and a half, people were saying the same thing about trusting, putting a credit card number into a field on a website. But you don't even think about that anymore. And if you go way back, like ancient history, to ATM machines, there was a lot of resistance with people trusting a machine that they would put checks or money into, and the knowledge that it might not get into their bank account. Where we're at today is about 70 million wallets, these digital MetaMask type wallets, Web3 wallets. And that's, again, another signal that this is changing again and really creating another aha moment around a transition. And, I think it's going to be up to, those of us that understand centralized and decentralized kind of build and shape the next steps. And then, of course, just a couple of days ago, we saw Salesforce employees say, we think this new plan for the company to build an NFT cloud is terrible. Now, it was 100 or so employees that signed this letter out of 29,000, so it's small. But there's just a lot of resistance to some of the negative publicity, the issues from a non-eco-friendliness perspective that are informing us, and that's creating challenges for brands that are centralized, like Salesforce, one of the biggest software companies in the world. So understanding how to sort of take the classic approach of branding and how you embrace the hype is going to be a critical and yet hugely misstep part in all of this. So we're going to have a lot of broken eggs before we get to the omelet, and it's going to take some time. It took a decade or more for us to make the leap between email and trusting e-commerce. It's going to take a long time before this is fully indoctrinated. That said, we're going a lot faster than we used to. I'm not going to go into a lot of, I just did this presentation at the beginning of January for an event in Europe. And, I was talking to a lot of my peers who don't, it's not broadly understood, where a lot of this stuff began. And I'm going to assume that a lot of the folks on the call have some understanding of it. But, I think what's interesting is when you look a little bit deeper into what was actually happening as these technologies emerged, that's where some of the, I think this, again, the signals are around some of the things that we can read into the future next steps. And of course, with Bitcoin and blockchain, a lot of it is shrouded in this mystery. And we know that there's this character, Satoshi Nakamoto. We know that there was a white paper that was produced, and a lot of this stuff happened around the mid 2000, end of 2008 timeframe. And the white paper, for those of you on the call that are still students, is sort of a very key element in being able to validate something, particularly in the technology industry. So it was something very strategic about calling it a white paper that helped it kind of rise above what would have ordinarily been something that didn't have a lot of fanfare associated with it. And of course, very quickly after that, when we saw the birth of Nakamoto's Genesis block, which is famously set to 0. I think what's interesting here is this happened at the same time that there were signals from banks during the big financial bailout that there was going to be significant funding from central banks and significant manipulation of currencies to bail out the global economy. That's important because this innovation was happening right at the time that the central banks, the central institutions in our world, were dealing with subprime mortgages and toxic assets. So we're first confronted with this idea of Web3 and this evolution right at that time. And you guys may be familiar with some of the characters that have been debated as being Satoshi Nakamoto, or perhaps a blend of these players were involved. But I think it's important to point out that if it's one or all of these gentlemen who were involved in the Satoshi Nakamoto persona, they all brought something really unique to the table, from Nick Szabo and really the concept of BitGold, Hal Finney downloading or minting the first 10 Bitcoins from Nakamoto. All of this kind of led to the next steps in 2010 around Pizza Day, right? And the famous transaction of 2 pizzas in Florida, of course, all roads lead to Florida, with Bitcoin. This was, again, another signal to the market that something was shifting, something was changing. And right at that time that the debate about who Nakamoto was beginning to foment, he disappears, right? He just completely, absconded, and he's left behind this legacy of a new concept. And shortly after that is when we started to see how Web 2 would adapt in this new world. And again, interesting points to kind of look at the genesis of BitPay, of WordPress as a really big transactional content management platform or blog engine, now capable of accepting transactions in Bitcoin, and then a really big retail online e-commerce store. So this slow burn, the slow heating of the water with the frog in it is now leading up to the big confrontation that any technology goes through around security. And while there was fraud happening between 2012 and 2014, the Mt. Gox incident really forced us to all stop and think about what part of the ecosystem, whether it's immutable or not, whether it's hackable or not, is capable of being manipulated by people. And this was confronted during this theft of these Bitcoins. But it didn't stop the rise. It didn't stop the continued growth of it. And we saw other brands jump into it before Ethereum became something that we started to talk about, the rise of the exchanges shortly thereafter that. And this we'll call affectionately kind of the Ethereum period. And what was unique about Ethereum in the scope of things is how it really started to look at more of the core tenets. And again, I go back to how we use cloud law and things as well, but asking questions about, what is decentralized finance? What does it really look like in order to make it a true community, reflective of community tenets, using smart contracts as a key way to be able to execute on that, and then taking people out of the equation. And it came down to really simple pillars around how it was architected, which again is something we look at in cloud. How is the sort of the political landscape of it documented? How is control managed and facilitated? And how many computers or systems are involved in all of that? And then finally, the logic of the system. Is anything from the way that data is structured within it, which again is another cloud concept. Does the way that it looks from the outside behave more like a single monolithic thing versus a swarm of things or a collective of things? And the test for that is sort of in the Turing category of, if you cut it in half, can the system still survive? Does it still think? Does it still operate the same way? And that's really critical. So a lot of these concepts started emerging as Charles Hoskins and Vitalik Buterin brought this white paper to life, again, validating it as a technology and really starting to challenge the status quo around DeFi. And this is when we started to see the emergence of decentralized autonomous organizations, this way of being able to manage and facilitate smart contracts without human intervention, using logic as a means of being able to facilitate that. And then the concept of and the rise of applications that could be built on top of the blockchain. And we refer to these as high utility applications in the blockchain lexicon and world. So a lot of big concepts that came out of that period. And this is a really, really great slide. This gets a lot of shock and awe when I share it, because we'll show these slides in the digital experience world, right? And there are about 7,000 technologies in the digital experience field. And that's taken decades and decades to amass. What's fascinating is just in the Ethereum ecosystem, how many different technologies have either adapted to this new reality and are offering some aspect of it in how they deploy, or whole new technologies that never existed before. So really exciting, but very intimidating to see this landscape start to evolve so quickly. So I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. This is all happening so quickly. And then, where we go from there is this real rise of Web3. And again, I'll assume everybody on the call understands the concept at a base level. But if Web 1 was static and Web 2 was interactive around third-party entities, Web 3 is really this idea of destroying those entities, or at least the ones that don't fully rely. We won't fully rely on, like banking, government, and infrastructure. And during this rise between 15 and today, we had a lot of things happen. We had legalization of crypto in countries. We had small countries rapidly become safe havens for building crypto businesses, and they saw it as an opportunity to diversify and not just build transparency, but attract business and technology investment. And right as the age of Ethereum was kicking up is when COVID hit. So we had 10 years of digital transformation happen in about a 90-day period. A lot of people at home stuck, innovating, thinking about how to use different technology languages to build applications on these blockchains. And of course, this is when we started to see more of the alternative blockchains and alt currencies start to enter the equation. And I won't spend time here, but again, the big differences between 2 and 3 is decentralizing that control, where Twitter can't censor my accounts. Web3 payment applications don't require personal data. They can't prevent payments. And I think the big one, this idea that, in the bigger centralized infrastructure side of things, if we can secure the cloud at that level where Web3 servers aren't going down because they're decentralizing thousands of computers, is a really beautiful concept. We're not there yet, but I think this is where we're starting to have these conversations about high utility. And, the godfather of all this is Elon Musk. And what I find fascinating about Musk and sort of the Musk effect is that he is my peer. He is a vestige of centralization, right? He's got a big company, he's making billions of dollars, and, he's got to be very careful to toe the line. And he does it with Tesla. When you think about how he is really the only supply chain for aftermarket parts for his automobiles, for his electric cars. This is exactly the kind of centralization that decentralized Web3 is trying to destroy. So he's this player that's between two worlds, and of course anything he talks about becomes a market influence, right? It shifts things very rapidly. And I encourage you to go back and look at his tweets, right? We see them every day, but if you go back and you do a little bit of research around this Musk effect, it's really fascinating how he's been doing the very thing that Web3 is trying not to do, which is manipulate the market. And during this time, we had the rise of meme coins. And this has been a fascinating thing to watch too, because this goes back to the concept of communities, the social element that exists, whether or not the real concept of trust and value and ownership can exist in a world where we don't have some kind of centralized regulation. And what we're going to see probably over the next couple of months, maybe the next year, is more regulation enter this marketplace to help bring more of this under control, because there is a significant amount of fraud happening. And then I think the community piece, and I'll kind of jump from here, is really critical with all of this, because it at the center of all of this is the simple, elegant idea that the social networks that we interact with on a day-to-day basis are in fact that centralized control that we're trying to escape. We go there, we give them all of our data, but in fact, what we're trying to do is find ways to not rely on them for all of that. And these new gaming environments are kind of demonstrating how in this ecosystem, we can transact, we can connect socially. It's really this expression of what the metaverse in the most positive way represents. But it's still in its early days. And while they have millions of participants, it is still evolving. I'll jump through this. And of course, the last thing I'll talk about really is just branding. And the evolution of the exchanges has been tied very closely to, again, big businesses looking for ways to kind of manipulate the kind of public favor, right? And by getting Matt Damon to be the figurehead of an exchange, it was a really smart move. But it creates a kind of a false sense of trust about whether or not the technologies and the systems can be utilized in a safe and secure manner. We believe that because it behaves a lot like the systems we have right now, but in fact, a lot of that is still being played out. So I'm going to end on just this idea of asking questions around, what is essential, what is needed to do it in a safer way, right? Especially when there's so many questions about, where this came from, right? We had Satoshi Nakamoto. We started with proof of work. We're moving to proof of stake. There's a lot of changes happening right before our eyes, right? As Salesforce is saying that, their employees are saying, we don't want NFTs. You've got huge NFT marketplaces, emerging each day. And this ecosystem of cross-chain or multi-chain is growing at the same time that the stack is growing. So there's just so much confusion and so much to absorb and sort of have a breadth of understanding with, that I think some of that confusion is creating a lot of the resistance that we're seeing right now. And we still have these questions around, where did it start? Can we trust the players that were behind all of this? Do we know that it wasn't actually Elon Musk? We don't. So we're still going to have these questions to wrestle with. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things that we're working on as a company, and they're going to evoke some of the things that we talked about so far at the presentation. And I go back to cloud as being a really important foundation for all of this. And the essentials that we're seeing with our customers as they look for ways of being able to securely deploy blockchain solutions, and then in some cases, build an NFT marketplace or build some type of a crypto strategy is starting with the most scalable and secure way of being able to do that. So again, you need a centralized cloud strategy. You need infrastructure to deploy it and scale it in multiple directions. And that means we got to look to big public clouds that have that capability. But where do you put all this stuff, right? Where do we put the content? Where do we put the experiential pieces, particularly with non-fungible tokens? So we need some way of managing that in CMSs or DMs or other repositories that allow us to make it scalable and link it back to what's being printed in the blockchain. And then having a self-contained cluster as a starting point. How do you do that in a way that allows you to deploy, have the security met with 5 nines, and then building that out over time? How do you scale it over time? And then finally, I think the big concept that we focus on with customers, and we're actually building a new wallet model, is the Web3 wallet. But what is this Web3 wallet concept really capable of? It's not just accessing your MetaMask to get into an exchange or a marketplace. We see Web3 wallet as supplanting SSO, single sign-on. We see it as kind of the gateway to accessing all of these different ecosystems, because the big challenge now is gas fees and the blockers and obstacles of moving from one blockchain to another. So these are the things that we're working on right now, and I'll end here. We're really focused on those high utility use cases. As I noticed on the previous presentation, they were talking about on the last slide about using NFTs for securing medical records. That's actually something we're working on. So this is a really great use case concept where organizations are trying to find ways to be able to leverage the unique ownership or the unique codification of something in the blockchain. So marrying together those worlds of fungible, semi-fungible, non-fungible, but then also having a way of tracking that and keeping it, reducing it, compressing it in as much a manner as possible. Many healthcare record components tend to have a lot of data associated with it. So this is going to be the challenge for technologists, is reducing the size and impact. Of course, we've seen NFT art galleries. We've got customers that are very ambitious, but they're looking for unique niche audiences where the impact of creating that community has a really significant reach. And, as we think about blockchains being a foundation for building a project, that's really what we're trying to get to. And of course, ticketing in places like Orlando is really key. We see theme park partners that are looking at ways to utilize NFTs to provide stored value and additional access to things through their transactions. And then the last one that I think is really cool is public sector. So government agencies that are looking for ways to use blockchain technologies as a way to secure things, secure deeds and assets, again, codify the ownership and certify the transaction records. And we're actually about, kind of a little under the radar, we're starting to talk about it now, but we'll be launching something called Orlando Coin, which is a regional play. It's actually built on Cardano, and hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have it out in market. But the idea is to act as sort of a unifying point. And it's a project with a very clear mission around being able to target the funds that we raise towards eco-friendly initiatives. So we're not just doing it for our customers, we're also building our own staking pools and building our own resources as well. So that's what we've been up to. I'll end there, but I appreciate the opportunity to share what we've seen in the industry, where this has come from and where it's heading now. And the things to watch out for. And there's a lot left to do, right? So we need your help. I'm on the prowl to hire developers. So I don't know if there are developers in the room, but I'm certainly looking for more talent. And I love to see that there's an initiative that's focused on blockchain as something that UF is doing. So Lawrence, I'll give it back to you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you for coming to talk with us. It was super, super informative. And I think we still have some time left. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask them. Does anyone have any questions? You want to ask one? Okay, here you go.
Oh, so my name is Junho John. I'm a first-year CS major here at UF. And my question was, why did you choose Cardano specifically for like Orlando Coin?
That's a great question. Welcome to college. So I think, when we look at where, Ethereum as a blockchain and Ethereum as a concept, I just kind of went through where it started and the fundamentals built by the two guys that saw the deficiencies in Bitcoin. And I think the promise of Cardano, particularly when you're able to use Haskell as a sort of an intermediary for being able to build out custom applications and do that faster and at scale, provided a lot more flexibility for us. I think the other thing too is that when we think about the brand, right? I go back to how important the storytelling piece is in all this. When I look at the work Charles Hoskins is doing, I look at how much integrity he has, what he's thinking about from a community perspective. If you read a little bit about what he's been doing in Africa and really trying to, take the entire continent to the next wave with Web3 and decentralize everything and democratize things, through Web3, it's a really fascinating and big mission. And that's something that I think we can get behind as a company. So I think there's a blend of the technology decisions, right? The posture of it as a blockchain, but then also the brand and the spirit of it. And I can't stress enough how much of this technology, while it's all new, still has to do with our there's behavioral tendencies, there is emotional reaction, there's an intimacy reading on all of this. And why have people thrown in with so many of these altcoins and projects? It's because they're attracted to the purpose, they're attracted to the mission. And that's probably the coolest part about all of this, is that we're building these mini communities that have really significant potential to do good in the world. There are certainly bad actors. And one of the challenges we see with public sector is they can't accept money, they can't speculate in these altcoins. So we have to find ways of being able to use staking pools, smart contracts, and DAOs as methods for being able to take the human equation out of it, which ends up being a more democratized way to do it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, I have one I can ask. So when did your company start using blockchain? And in the beginning, was there any doubt about its, did you trust it fully? That's my question.
That's an awesome question. Both great questions, by the way. I thought the Cardano question was very good. And on this one, I'd say I don't trust anything. You have to be a skeptic, and you guys should be skeptics of everything. And being a skeptic means you think about well-architected frameworks. You think about, and you don't have to be a hardcore computer science technologist to take that model and approach. But if you think about things being architected properly, and you have that level, you look through everything through that lens. I think it provides you the right level of insight. And this is where we're going to have to pump the brakes, right? Things are happening so fast, and there's so much trust that's been built around user interfaces and experiences that most users just get out a credit card, they just type their number in. So that's the danger of sort of the sophistication of all of this. And when we look at phishing attacks and all the other security risks that companies face, it's the sophistication of it that's snagging us, right? You know, it used to be that only our grandparents opened those emails, right? You know, from bad actors, but now they're looking so real that we have to take a well-architected approach to looking at the route. We have to look at the origin point. We have to go through 3 or 4 separate checks to make sure that we're opening an email safely. So I would say that, you know, be skeptical of everything. As a company, we didn't like throw right into it. It's been a couple of years burning up to this point, and I wish I had done things earlier because we could have architected a little bit more predictively. But you know, who would have known that it would have blown up to this level so quickly? So I think if you stay true to the principles of being smart, asking the right questions, and the other thing I'll say too is, as a company that is a cloud services company that started as a CMS, we really understood the idea of the transactional nature of experiences. So whether it's content, it's NFTs, it's blog posts, whatever, it's a social media post, these are all transactions, right? And the blockchain is endeavoring to create more transparency around all of that, and also make it easier to distribute, you know, whether headlessly or through an omni-channel strategy, distribute those in different ways. So I think that's the easy part for us to kind of jump on to the blockchain bandwagon, is it was just the next wave of what we're going to do with that transactional content. Does that make sense?
Totally. Thank you so much again. I have one last, just like really quick question. Do you personally own any NFTs or crypto?
Yeah, I can't, it's being recorded, so I can't show you what I'm doing. I was going to show a slide, but yes, I do. We have, and we've gone into OpenSea and built an integration with OpenSea as an engine as well. So for some of our prospects that are coming through looking for an NFT build from the ground up, which, you know, for enterprises, they want to own a stack in a way that makes the experience as secure as possible. But again, all of this is still centralized, right? You got to buy the servers from somewhere. You got to, you know, a brand is going to, like Lacoste is going to build its own NFT strategy. They're going to try to own as much of the experience as they can. But, you know, even going to an OpenSea is still a big centralized platform, right? So it's not really Web3 in that sense. And this is the hard part, right? That we're right at the precipice. We don't know what it means yet to be fully decentralized. And I don't know that we'll ever get there, but we're asking a lot more of the right questions about what parts should be decentralized. You know, so as part of the skunk works, you know, I spent time in OpenSea, you know, purchasing NFTs. I spent time, you know, with our Cardano deployments, really trying to, you know, build out our own staking pools to kind of have this concept of what is the user experience like? What is the journey to get from nothing to something? And what are the blockers along the way? You know, and I think the attributes that I was seeing in the previous presentation around NFTs is the real key, right? You know, when you think about theme parks having tickets that can act as stored value, you know, where they can resell the ticket in some kind of a metaverse application, they can use it to gamify in some manner. They can use it as part of an AR, VR experience as they walk around Disney or Universal. They can transact with it, you know, almost fluidly. You know, it creates like this whole other layer of experience that goes beyond it just being crypto or something that has value. So I think the bigger story in all of this is, and Coinbase sees it, Coinbase thinks that NFTs will be bigger than its crypto business. So I'd say pay attention to that, and you know, as it evolves, look for the best ways to do it. You know, the least environmentally impactful, you know, the ones that you know are in alignment with that well-architected framework. And the last thing I'll say is we're going to have the same problems we have always had as human beings, right? You're always going to have some unpredictable thing that comes along and creates problems from a brand and perception perspective. Advertising agencies and brands are dealing with this right now because they're seeing, you know, that, you know, a single thing that they do in the metaverse can have a ripple effect. So we're going to have to, again, pump the brakes, I think, and kind of assess what we're doing as a culture, you know, to kind of understand where the guardrails are. Does that make sense?
Yes. All right. Thank you. Thank you for the answer, and thank you for coming to speak with us. I think we all learned a lot. It was a super informative presentation. So can we get a round of applause? Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. It was really good seeing you. Good luck to everybody,
Good
and
to see you too.
reach out to me. You know, reach out to me on LinkedIn or yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best way to get me. But you know, if anybody's interested in talking more, interested in what they do after they graduate, you know, I'm happy to talk to people because we're, you know, growing our team out, and this is a big important part of what we're doing. And the high utility use cases are the things you get to maybe work on, because we're talking to public sector, we're talking to real companies that want to have a blockchain strategy that does something, right? That's not just about building a staking pool. And this is a really fascinating time to be in this business.
All right. Thank you. We'll definitely share your LinkedIn so everyone can connect. Haley, do you have any like club announcements you want to say at the end or now? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming to the GBM, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, right? Or 3 weeks. Yes. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.